following year, his father, John Jay's son-in-law, died. And then in 1807, they took remains from two different family vaults, one in the Bowery, which we believe had his wife, and one from Fishkill, where his parents were living. We believe his parents were part of that. And this one large monument is for all of those burials. We didn't get a list of everybody that they moved, so we don't know all of the people that are buried. In 1815, the family set up a trust for the initial 1-acre cemetery. And John Jay's son and nephew were the first trustees. But the trust document specifically said no fences around the cemetery. They made an official corporation out of the cemetery in 1906. And then in 1946, after the war, they realized that they were going to run out of room. So the Devereaux that owned the Jay estate at the time made a pretty good deal for, they called it the Committee to Enlarge the Jay Cemetery, because none of the cemetery funds could be used for anything but maintenance or upkeep. So a lot of the family members joined together, raised the money, and the Devereaux sold them another almost 2 acres. And then the committee members gave it to the cemetery. That was good. And since there had been a little bit of vandalism, they decided to violate the trust rules and put the fence around it, because 3 acres is also the legal limit for a family cemetery in New York. Oh. And there was a long, protracted battle in the state legislature to get permission to expand it. Suzanne's grandfather participated in that. Right? I got that right? Your grandfather?
Yep.
And the cemetery lane had already been set up. In '67, they broke up the Jay estate into the 3 blocks that it is now. The one developed block on Barlow Lane was supposed to give the city of Rye a little bit of the tax income that giving the rest of it away to tax-free organizations would make up for. 23 acres of the Jay estate and the 120 acres that is the Marshlands Conservancy. And there was a big fight to make sure that that Marshlands Conservancy land was used for that and not developed. The Jay Coalition fought that battle, including a bunch of the family members, cemetery board members. The Nature Center was established in '72, and they asked permission from the cemetery board members to use the first 400 feet of the cemetery lane so as not to have to create another post road entrance. And the board members wisely set up a legal easement document to that effect, because the Nature Center was trying to expand, and we could kind of remind them that their lane was at our desire, not theirs. In '76, the Parson family donated 27 acres to the marshlands and completely surrounded the cemetery. You'll see some of the nature trails walking around. And I guess that's all I have to say. We've placed flags at any of the veterans, not necessarily who died in uniform, but there are quite a few of them. My great-great-grandfather actually volunteered to be trained as an officer before the United States entered World War I. And he served with great distinction in World War I. quite a few distinguished veterans, including Francis J. What was Francis's role, Suzanne?
She volunteered in World War I. I don't remember her exact role and title, but she's the only female veteran here. So there is one.
And that's all I have, unless there are questions.
Nope,
Thank you for coming.